Well, welcome. Here we go. Year nine. I believe it's year nine. But I will tell you, this is the longest play time I've ever spent in one place. And so excited to get after it here. Certainly coming off the heels of what I think was this remarkable season. And we head into tomorrow night's exhibition with some questions that we still need to be answered, mainly uh, who's going to be on the outside and who's going to be on the right side, and how all of that is going to work. We've been fortunate probably the last 2 or 3 years where those questions were a little bit easier to answer than they are this year. I don't say that because we don't have talent. We do. We have quite a bit of talent. What we don't have probably is experience, and that's what we're working our way through. And so yeah, I mean, the returners are the returners. They're doing a really nice job. I think Hannah Hogue and Courtney Jackson are I think as good as they've ever been. And our middle call, we have four really nice middles that are doing a nice job here, which if you followed us over the years has probably not been the first thing that we say at any point in time, but our middles are doing a remarkably nice job, led by Sanaya Pettis and Zoe Evans, Skylar Erickson, and then Aleki Alexander, our freshman from Kansas City. They're really doing a nice job. So the NCAA, in their kindness, granted us an extra 5 days of practice, and so we used that wisely. But again, we're no closer to answering some questions. And part of that, I think, is on me. I think we're letting this competition go as long as we possibly can, to give everyone as much time as they can to make their case. And probably we'll use lots of different combinations on Thursday at Missouri State, and then Monday and Tuesday another thing, and then Wednesday we head off to California. And so at that point in time, we probably need to get some answers right as we kick off on Friday. But yeah, it's been a good camp, and I think we're, school's in session, so parking's a mess and everyone's stressed, but we'll get it all figured out here as we move through. So
Paul, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Jason, just wanted to know what give me your thoughts on having on what Hannah brings. She's been here a while, so can you tell me, what she brings to this mix, and you know uh, what she can do to help get some of these guys who are maybe lacking in experience up to speed a little bit.
yeah, I think there's two parts to that answer, Paul. Is one, of course, there's this technical component, right, where she's throwing up this really remarkable set. It's in this consistent tempo, consistent location, and so that level of consistency that is something that she certainly brings. And I'll also pivot to say that Lo Jones, who redshirted last year, is doing another. She's coming along, equally well in that consistency and location thing. Um, where then perhaps there's a little bit of separation between the two of them is the ability to communicate. The ability to interpret and communicate and be a little proactive in that space. Lowe's made tremendous improvement in that area, but Hannah has gone through that, and so she's able to articulate and communicate with the hitters in a way that allows them the freedom to give that feedback to her, that she can make the necessary adjustments and changes. And it's not a combative relationship. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. And so I think that's what Hannah brings. And I mean, Hannah's been in some big games too, and so there's an enormous amount of experience that comes with that big stage and that big moment, and some things. Both her and Courtney, for that matter, have been in big games, handling big moments, and so that's, as we have these question marks going through, it's nice to have some have some experience in some what I think are pretty significant positions in our setter and libero position.
Well, and the other thing, and I'll let someone else go. Where does her leadership figure into this mix that we're talking about as well?
Yeah, I mean, leadership's an interesting word here with our volleyball team. You know, we don't put much stock in the traditional hierarchy of communication through, you know, some anointed leaders, you know, but everybody's voice is significant. And I think that's where, you know, Hannah has never not been a leader, but I think it's the experience and the voice that is important, you know, that you know, and while, you know, she isn't this I don't know, outwardly emotional, you know, like, hey, person, you know, that doesn't mean that she's not competitive and doesn't work out. And with that has the respect of her peers. And perhaps that's the most important thing, that she has the respect of her peers. And so I imagine, you know, that could be tied to leadership. Um, yeah, it's nice as a coach, right? Where your best players are the people who just work incredibly hard every day. You know, it's a nice thing for us. Like that's the standard, you know, and she leads that for sure.
Well, and that's what, you know, I know, I think you and I have talked before that leadership, that word's a little different for you guys, but I guess what I mean with Hannah is, I guess experience is what she has that maybe some of the other ones don't. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
certainly that. Yeah, and I think, you know, we're a little bit more hey, how are you going to communicate to each other? And so she certainly is more comfortable in that space than most.
Okay, I'll let someone else go. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, cheers.
Dudley, you can go ahead.
Coach, talk a little bit about just the fun and challenges of reloading or reconfiguring a team and kind of putting the jigsaw puzzle together.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, you know. It certainly is a challenge from their perspective, right? That they're all in the mix here a little bit. I think, you know, this time a year ago, there weren't as many questions about, you know, who's going to go where. You know, I think what I'd like to think, you know, yeah, I mean, there are programs on campus clearly that just reload. You know, like we don't think about track rebuilding. You know, we just think about them reloading and doing all those things. I think we're a team that's going to be on this kind of cycle, I think, and we're going to start with some freshmen on the floor, a significant number of them actually, and we're going to ride this wave with them, right? I mean, there's going to be these, you know, I don't know. It looks like you spent some time in the surf, you know, but with your background there, but little palm trees, little surf blowing in the background there. But yeah, we're going to ride those waves a little bit this season, you know, and that for me is fun, and it's reminding me that I have a big responsibility to make sure that we're communicating both efficiently and effectively and encouraging, you know, and not assuming that these athletes know how to respond in situations where, you know, our group last year knew, you know, and so they're gonna lean on the Hannahs and the Courtneys and probably myself and our staff in some pretty significant moments, and so I've got to be patient. I think I'm fairly patient, but I think I've got to be patient in that space. But I'm having a good time. It's making me be a better coach. We're writing better practices in terms of being able to script some things that they need to get better at. But what I will say is, while we may not have experience, we are talented and we are working hard, and you know, who knows what they're, you know, who knows what's going to happen in December. But for right now, those are good traits to have, right? Those are really good traits to have.
Appreciate it.
Daniel?
Hi, Coach. I was just wondering, as far as the schedule goes, last year you had the big test against Wisconsin. This year, with Texas joining the SEC and so many other good SEC schools, did that maybe take into account how you decided to put together your non-con schedule?
Yeah, there's a couple of inherent challenges with the non-conference. One of them was trying to get teams to come to Fayetteville. That was a bit of a challenge. And then actually it was a bit of a challenge to go find some places to go play. I think we're not the team that we were last year, but in some people's minds, we're still a handful. And we also thought that this is a team that probably we need to schedule in a way that gives us the best opportunity to get to the NCAA tournament. I mean, last year we scheduled with the idea of hosting the first and second rounds, which turned up to be a fairly realistic goal for that group. And we got seeded 1 through 16. I don't know if we're there this year. I do think we've got the chance to be in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's our goal. And so I think we scheduled a little bit with that in mind. Yeah, fast forward a couple of years, maybe we'll be back in that mix again and we'll schedule accordingly. But what I think we've seen with this schedule is that we're going to go play some teams that I think are really talented, who are playing in conferences that if you're not into the weeds of college volleyball, as some of us are, you may not realize how good they are because they're going to go win their conference and they're going to go do some things, but they're certainly not in the Big Ten and the ACC and Big 12 and those type of things. But with the onset of expansion, comes some challenges, and I see expansion, especially within the SEC, as this wonderful thing. It increases the mean level of play, and that's significant. As the mean level of play goes up, matches become incredibly meaningful, and meaningful matches have some implication when you get to the postseason. And so those are incredibly positive things for everybody. And I don't, we're from Arkansas. We're not afraid of hard work. It's what we do.
And then you mentioned how you're going to rotate a lot of young people, a lot of new faces. Are there any additional challenges, maybe when it comes to serve receive or the first touch, when you're dealing with that many new people at once?
Yeah, I mean, there's some big challenges with it. We're going to rotate some people through tomorrow night. I don't know what it's going to look like through the course of the season, but certainly when you look at for 3 straight years, Taylor Head, Courtney Jackson, and Jill handled every ball that was passed or served at us, with the lone exception when Jill got hurt. And now one of those 3 are back. And so we're going to look to Courtney to take up what I think is probably what you see most liberos do, take up a whole bunch, because we haven't had to. And so that's going to take some getting used to for everybody. But yeah, I apologize.
No,
Yeah,
Coach.
Barnhill
I guess
yeah,
I'm good.
Barnhill not yet game day ready, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
I mean, I'm sort of tempted to ask if you want better Wi-Fi moving forward, if that's one of the things that you want to put into the athletic department. But my last question, I guess, doesn't really have to do with the season, but I guess this was an Olympic year. I'm just wondering, from someone with your perspective and been coaching so long, if how closely you follow that, and if you know Coach Karai at all from over the years.
I've spent a little bit of time in that USA world, if you will, not much, but a little time, and not any this quad at all. But yeah, followed the women, of course, but have a couple more ties to the men's side of things. But yeah, remarkable Olympics. Just a really remarkable Olympics for USA Volleyball, both on the men's and the women's side. I thought the Italian women's team was the best. They clearly were the best team in the world, and the way in which they went about playing volleyball was really kind of fun to watch from a coach's perspective. So, and so it was nice. But yeah, I thought both USA teams perhaps overachieved in what the expectations were coming in, to medal and things like that. So, but lots of people watching it. I mean, I think we're seeing volleyball on a really nice upswing around the world. So it's great.
I guess, can I just ask what the connections were to the men's side for you?
I have a friend that is an assistant with the men, Mike Wall. We do a little bit of coaching clinic work together over the years, and I played against John Spryer in college, and so the other assistant, Matt Fiebringer, and so that men's world is pretty tiny. There aren't very many men's collegiate teams in the U.S. and so there's some ties there, and Koch is Koch, like Koch is a legend. I remember watching him when I was growing up in Australia, and he's a remarkable individual who, it's not surprising, is this phenomenal volleyball coach, right?
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, no worries. We'll get better Wi-Fi too. Don't worry. We'll get on it.
Evan, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hey coach, just one question for you, keeping it short today. Now that you guys are, 3-ish weeks or so into practice, what's something that you've learned about this team that's different from some of the years prior?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's maybe a little too early to tell, because I think we'll find out our character once we get kind of pushed and tested a little bit. I think one of the things with this group is, and maybe it's with all young teams, that they want to be perfect a little bit, in an environment that just you can't be, right? You just can't be. And so they're a little bit more outcome than effort based in some things. And so we're trying to kind of work through that. And that's an area of growth that you need to go through as you mature and you play. And I mean, it's not a negative, right? I mean, you want your kids to be good and work hard and do some things, but you also want them to be their best teammates too, and be kind to each other as they're learning and things like that. There's going to be tremendous growth, and we will be a better team in a month than we are today, and so we've got to be patient and things, but they're working as hard as the team last year did. They're asking good questions. They're going about their business as best they can, and it's up to us as coaches, right, to put them in the best spot to go be better at the game of volleyball. But yeah, they're learning. I think that would be the best descriptor. They're learning an enormous amount each time we're in the gym, and I appreciate the way that they're going about their learning.
Thanks, Coach.
Any more questions for Coach Watson?
I just had one to visit. You and I had talked a little bit about the SEC coaches poll, but then the national poll came out. So kind of give me your thoughts on is that some respect that you feel like your program's gotten from a national being ranked in that ABCA poll, and then versus being ranked being picked 8th in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, hey, when you're picked 1 or 2, you say the polls don't matter, right? So when you're picked 8th, the poll still shouldn't matter, What I think probably it is, to me, is that probably those within the SEC are a little bit more familiar with us than those that are outside of the SEC. And so the polls, I think, probably reflect that more so than anything. And maybe the truer poll comes out after 3 weeks than it does after the first. Maybe I don't know. I think everybody is so busy this time of year. Those that are voting on coaches polls are just incredibly busy that I feel like most of the voting is just cut and paste from the last poll to the next one. And I get that, right? Nobody has time for that sort of thing, and it's hard to know and things like that. But that's how I would put it. Somebody thought we got disrespected because we were 8th, and I thought, well, who cares? Who cares? We haven't done anything, and no is anyone else. And so, look at Missouri last year. Nobody thought they would do that, and they got to the tournament, won a game, and so yeah, nobody knows, right? Nobody knows, but it makes it fun, right? It's a talk, it's a fun conversation. It gives us, yeah, we spent at least 3 minutes on it, so that's fun, right? But outside of that, I don't know. Well, Paul, I will share. They asked me to vote on that poll. They did ask me to vote on it, and I declined.
Okay.
Because I don't have time and I don't follow what goes on around the country nearly close enough to be able to give a good opinion on what's going on. And I imagine there are a lot of coaches in that place. There are a lot of coaches in that space.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Coach?
I have one quick one, just really quick. You lost Jill Gillan as a player, but you have her back on your staff now. Just what does she bring to this team in that new role?
Yeah. And so I think what has happened over the last couple of days with Jill being in the gym is I think there was at first some apprehension about, oh boy, what's this going to look like? Jill is this remarkable competitor, and I think people remember her as that. Especially if you're a young freshman, you remember that sort of thing. But she has become this wonderful mentor, if you will, on these outside hitters, and has been their best, I don't know, cheerleader, if you will, although I would hate to say that Jill is a cheerleader in any way, in the way that she goes about her game, but she genuinely has shown excitement for their improvement. And I can think of no better person to lead that group through what's coming than Jill, because of what she's been through. And so that's a pretty significant staffing move by us, that she was willing to do that, and that she's going to be here for the season, and then she's going to go back and play in the PVF with Columbus, I think is where she's at. So. But she's doing a remarkable job with those outside hitters, and we have lots of questions in that place, who it's going to be, and she's really being intentional in her coaching of that group, and so it's fun to watch. It's really fun for me to watch.
All right. If that's all we have, we will wrap it up. Thank you everyone for your patience. Look forward to seeing you at Barnhill this season, and if there's anything else you need, please let me know.
Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Jason.